Your sub, this is NY3, just showing off another of my Duel Link decks. This one is going to be on Ritual Beast, so another one of my favorite archetypes. Yeah, so just have to show it off, I guess. So, yeah, Ritual Beasts. This is also another very good deck that I can pretty confidently say I can, that I can reach King of Games with right now. But yeah, here's the deck. The skill doesn't really matter. There aren't any good skills for Ritual Beast, so this is like a deck that I like to run when I'm farming for skills in PvP. But yeah, I think Life Boost Alpha is a really good generic skill right now, since a lot of the decks are tailor-made to deal 4k damage, but very few reach the 5k damage OTK thresholds. So this kind of just gives you an extra turn where you can make a comeback. A lot of characters have Life Boost Alpha. I'm just using Yami Yugi to try and confuse people a little bit. But yeah, the deck core engine, we have 3 Winder, 3 Kanahawk, Pedalfin, 2 Elders, and a Pelio, and Lara for the monsters. Now basically, all of this, I think this ratio is pretty set in stone. Not much you can change here. For the spell traps, I'm running 1 Ambush, 1 Bond, 1 Return. Now this is usually where Ritual Beast players would disagree on the ratio of. Now the Return, some people are running more of this because it does give a tiny little consistency boost for your turn 1s. Basically, Return comes in handy if you open exactly Kanahawk without an Elder, but you have a Winder and a Lara and the Return in hand. So that's a pretty specific scenario for Return to actually be a turn 1 consistency booster. Some players think it's worth it. I don't really think so. I'm just running it for the OTKs mainly. And the same for the Bond. The Return and Bond really lets you turbo into an OTK play out of nowhere. And Ambush is just a really good card. For the rest of the filler, since there aren't enough good Ritual Beasts to, run more of, we are on Triple Book of Moon. Now, not only is this the best spell trap, generic spell trap in the game right now for Duel Links, this has added utility in a Duel Link deck, since you can contact fusion with face downs. So, Book of Moon has other utilities now. You can dodge cards like Karma Cut by Book of Mooning your own monster and still go ahead and contact fusion. So you're essentially using it as a Forbidden Lance. Now this deck is on no back row removal, since this deck naturally beats back row. Again, the most common form of disruption your opponent is going to have in their back row in Duel Links are cards like Book of Moon, Floodgate Trap Hole, Paleozoic Canadia. So all of these just flip your monster face down, which you don't care because, again, you can contact fusion with face downs. And if they try to do it on your boss monsters, you can just dodge it by contact fusing out. The rest of the staples, Light and Shadow Imprisoning, against this is format dependent. If these don't work, I used to have a Fiendish Chain in these positions. And the last card, Santa Claus. Now this, you can basically use it to out anything you want, and it's recyclable with Pedalfin, because Pedalfin, you can bounce a card your opponent controls back to your hand, so you can Santa Claus them twice per turn, or just keep the Santa Claus in your hand to make sure that no, hard to get rid of boss monster would ever be a trouble ever again. This deck does store very well with the Winders. You can tag out into double Winder every turn. Quite often, I can deck my opponent out only if they search more than me. This deck searches a lot, so deck out might not always be an option, but just having that one Santa Claus, you're guaranteed to draw it if you store long enough to draw your entire deck, which will out that problem card for you and let you go for an OTK. I think it makes it pretty worth it to play one-off in the deck. As for the extra deck, triple Apelio, double Carnahawk, one Petalfin, and one XE monster, Malevolent Sin. Duel Links, as you know, has 3 monster zones, and this deck, as you know, has trouble getting over 2,600 attack. So if they fill all 3 monster zones up with huge monsters, it can be really hard to OTK because you can only, at maximum, Petalfin twice per turn. So if you tag out during the end phase into a Petalfin, on your turn you can bounce a card, tag in, tag out into the Petalfin. That's your one special summon of Petalfin of that turn, and you can bounce a second card. And they still have that third big monster on the field that you want to get rid of, which is why I'm running a Malevolent Sin, which lets you banish that last monster and lets you go full game. So yeah, that's the deck, and we will go ahead and look at a couple of replays. I believe, so yeah, this one I believe was a Ritual Beast replay. Yep, so we're up against DDD. Now DDD likes to put up a lot of monsters bigger than 2,600 on the field at once, so it is a pretty rough matchup. But yeah, we are gonna go first and open the Outer Carnahawk combo. Now, no matter how bad the matchup is, if you open Outer Carnahawk, it's gonna be a pretty bad time for them. So yeah, I didn't search on the first Contact Fusion. Veteran Ritual Beast players might know this, but you don't do that. That lets you get 2 searches and have 2 engraved, 2 banished. Quite a common mistake I see people not doing that and just end up with 3 and 1, which is not ideal. So I left the Apelio banished, which is gonna come in clutch later on in the replay, because our opponent is running the Maxwell build. Maxwell does piercing and makes your monster 0 defense, so it's quite important that I tag out into Apelio here and then Ritual Beast Bond into a ulti Apelio in attack mode, which has 3,100 attack, to stop our opponent's OTK. And then we're gonna ambush in the in phase and just have so much resources that can even OTK over a board of 3 monsters bigger than our biggest monster. So we search Outer and we search Petalfin, normal both, bounce 1, tag out into Petalfin, and we can bounce another one. And then we left the Winder tag out as the last tamer, since Winder is the only level 4 tamer, which allowed us to overlay into Sin to remove the third monster that's bigger than 2/6 for a clean OTK. And I believe this was the other Ritual Beast replay that I have in stock. So yeah, Ritual Beast doesn't really need like any specific skills, so you just see me use random characters with it. So this we did brick. We opened Outer and some back row. Hopefully we can stall until we draw into the combo. Yeah, I booked off Moon, which gets rid of the attack value on our opponent's monsters, so they couldn't get Whirlwind Searches, letting us survive what would usually be a very difficult OTK deck. We top decked into Apelio, so usually when I get Apelio, I just sacrifice one of the OT Carnahawks that I run and get 1 search of Ambush, because OT Counterhawk in the graveyard and Ambush in the graveyard gives Apelio 2 cards to banish. I wouldn't do this if it was, say, for example, Elder Petalfin. I would only do this specifically for Elder Apelio plays, where I sacrifice one of my OT Counterhawks. But yeah, we go ahead and comment, and here you can see what I mean when I say I mostly use Return as an OTK piece. We're gonna reborn a Petalfin, bounce one, and then that gives us 2 level 4s for the Malevolent Sin to get rid of another monster and go in for the clean OTK. So that was the Ritual Beast deck. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and that is all.